Yo, what's up, guys? Wow. What an embarrassing loss tonight for the Toronto Maple Leafs, guys. Getting their asses handed to them tonight by the St. Louis Blues, losing to them 5-1, guys. Now, obviously, we know that the St. Louis Blues and the Maple Leafs, they're right at the bottom of the standings, but the St. Louis Blues have been absolutely red hot in the month of March, guys. Now, after this win tonight, the St. Louis Blues are 10-2-1, I'm pretty sure, in their 13 games in March, guys. They are on an absolute heater right now, leading first in a lot of categories in the month of March. They're trying to get into a wild card spot. Obviously, it's a long shot, but they're still trying. And you saw how they played tonight. The Blues are going in one direction, the Leafs are going in another direction, obviously. But it's good news, of course, guys, because now with St. Louis winning this game tonight, they're in that fifth bottom spot, the fifth last spot in the NHL. Have 73 points, have a game in hand on the Maple Leafs. The Leafs have 75 points, guys. So this is very good news for the Leafs. Losing tonight was embarrassing the way they lost tonight, having 13 shots on net. 4 shots in the first 2 periods and then 5 in the third. It doesn't get more embarrassing than that. The way the Leafs got hemmed in their own end, turned the puck over. The amount of times they turned the puck over tonight was just laughable, to say the least. Couldn't keep the puck in St. Louis's end, had no ozone time, just barely any ozone time. The only time they had ozone time, especially in the first period, was when they had that double minor that Quillen drew that high stick on. Other than the Nylander and Michelli play there where Nylander made the pass to Michelli in the first period, the Leafs didn't really have any shots on net. And it's funny enough that Dakota Joshua, in the game against the Rangers on Wednesday night, guys, he had the first shot for the Maple Leafs in the second period, halfway through the second. The Leafs didn't have a shot for like the first 12 minutes of the second period tonight. And Joshua, ironically enough, was again the first shot on net in the second period tonight for the Maple Leafs. Unfortunately, he didn't score there, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway because St. Louis was just dominant tonight in all facets of the game. You could see that they were more hungry, the Blues, had more ozone time, peppered Joel Wall tonight. Joel Wall has faced 8 straight games with 32-plus shots tonight, guys, making 33 saves tonight on 38 shots. Once again, Joel Wall, Stolarz, whoever's been in net tonight, or in the past few games since the Olympic break, they've been left hanging out to dry. Craig Berube did Joel Wall a favor tonight. Joel Wall making his hometown, coming back to his hometown, of course, guys, and obviously Berube should have played Stolarz tonight, but chose to give Wall the start tonight because he's at home, and I like that move by Craig Berube. It was supposed to be Stolarz, decided to give it to Wall because he's playing at home, and I like that, but Joel Wall got absolutely peppered tonight. I feel really bad for the guy. Stoley's probably going to play against Anaheim, guys, in a couple days, of course, but, feel bad for Joel Wall, gets peppered, embarrassed again in his hometown, guys. The Blues were just spectacular in this game. They were dominant, but listen, guys, everybody looks spectacular right now against the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs are just an absolute embarrassment right now. All 3 periods was an embarrassment, giving up a shorthanded goal as well. This game, like, the first goal was absolutely hilarious, There we go again with number 44, Morgan Riley, trying to corral the puck, trying to relax the puck there, gets the puck taken off of him, reacts late, doesn't get back in front of the net there, guys. You see Soderblom there get in front of the net there, guys, to beat Morgan Riley inside. Beautiful play by the Blues there for him to get in front there to make it 1-0 for St. Louis there. But Morgan Riley's too late to the play, doesn't react quick enough, gets his typical -1. Nothing new there, of course. So just another horrendous play there by the Maple Leafs defensively, not having the self-awareness to see that a guy is near you, not getting the puck out with enough urgency. It's just really pathetic, to say the least, guys. How St. Louis was dominating the Maple Leafs and how bad the Maple Leafs looked in this game, guys. And then, guys, when you know that you're playing against a former Maple Leaf, you just know that that guy is scoring on you. And I'll admit it, I had no bloody idea that Justin Hall was still in the NHL. I thought that guy was in bloody Europe, maybe playing in Russia or the Swedish Elite League, something like that. I had no idea he was still in the NHL, but then once I saw Justin Hall in the lineup tonight, I go, oh my God, Justin Hall is probably going to bury one on us. And then, yep, the second goal of the night from a shot from the point, Justin Hall is able to squeak in front of the net with a slight tip to beat Joe Wall to make it 2-0. And there's your check mark for former Maple Leaf scoring against the Leafs and haunting them once again. It's just incredible. Justin Hall, man. Who would have thought? The Demons are really sticking it into the Leafs. The hockey gods, man, are really just pouring it down on the Maple Leafs, guys. Just embarrassing. And then it gets even worse. After Easton Cowan draws a penalty, draws a power play for the Leafs there, guys. Back-to-back games where he's done that. The Maple Leafs in their own end, just absolutely laughable. We yell and nice, don't react quick enough to get the puck stolen off him, and then you see Pierre Suter wide open in front of the slot. That happened multiple times in this game. Neighbors was in front of the slot in the first period, wide open for a shot on wall. He ended up saving it there. Multiple times tonight, we saw that happen. We saw that as well on the fourth goal, with Dylan Holloway getting into the zone, finding that open space in the middle of the ice to make it 4-1 for St. Louis. I cannot believe how easily the Blues entered the zone tonight, how much they were able to get into open space, how many times the Maple Leafs let them get into open space. No physicality, nothing, no urgency, and I don't expect too much urgency, but I expect this team to play with a little bit of pride to not get bloody embarrassed like they did tonight. But these guys here don't have any pride. We all know that. They just don't give a shit, going through the motions. They know the season's over. It's just getting more and more embarrassing as the season goes on. You still got another 8 games left after this one, so it's only going to get worse. And then Dylan Broberg, puts the nail in the coffin on top of it all, scoring a 5th goal there to make it 5-1. No wonder why the Edmonton Oilers are not what they used to be a few years ago when they took Florida to 7 after coming back from 3-0 down. Guys like Broberg and Holloway, those two are really solid players. Edmonton really screwed themselves not signing those guys, signing them to those offer sheets that St. Louis gave them a few years back, of course. Man, those two are really solid players there. But we also saw Jake McCabe get a goal, guys. Back-to-back games with a goal, after not having a goal in 51 games. Whoop-de-doo for Jake McCabe. That was after St. Louis had made it 3-0. The game was a wash, guys. Honestly, it was an absolute embarrassment. Another indictment on the Maple Leafs, not getting shots on net, leaving Joel Wall hanging, not showing any energy, not showing any pride whatsoever. It was just another embarrassing display tonight by the Maple Leafs, guys. I am so glad that this season is coming to an end, guys. With 8 games left, I don't have to watch this bullshit anymore after a couple weeks. After what I watched today with the Toronto Blue Jays, after what I watched that team do in the World Series, just the season they had, the first 2 games of the season now, and then I got to watch this shit with the Leafs. This season better end quickly, guys, in the next couple weeks, because I have no time to prioritize this bullshit. I want to watch a team that prioritizes winning, that plays for each other, has character, has resiliency, the right mentality to never be out of a game, being down 6-2 like the Jays were today. The Leafs don't have this. They don't have that mindset. They will never be this baseball team until they start making some proper changes when it comes to management and personnel. Serious changes need to be made with this franchise. It's an embarrassment, to say the least. Then you got guys like William Nylander, media asking him questions about how he feels about this season and how it went, and he says he wants to keep those feelings to himself. Understandable. I'm sure he's got a few interesting tidbits to say about how this season went. Now, he wasn't a perfect player this year, for at least didn't have a perfect season. Has his faults, of course, Willie Nylander, but this season, guys, has been an absolute embarrassment. This game here was just another example of it. This team played again tonight lifeless. St. Louis is playing some great hockey. The only positive is the race for bottom 5 is still on for the Leafs. With this loss night, it's absolutely massive. Now, you got a game on Monday night against the Anaheim Mighty Ducks, okay? I know there's just the Ducks. I still call them the Mighty Ducks sometimes. But regardless of that, who knows, regardless if what happens with Radko Gudas, if he plays or not. Either way, the Maple Leafs got to go in there, and I better see them grab their pound of flesh that night. If I don't, they will be once again an embarrassment to the hockey nation and the hockey world. They need to go in there and lay out every SOB that gets anywhere near them. If it's a Seneke, a Trouba, a Lacombe, I don't care who it is. You got to go and get your pound of flesh on the night they play the Ducks. I don't care who it is. You better lay somebody out, because after this performance tonight, I better see a little bit of a response against the Ducks after what they did to their captain not that long ago. I better see a response there, man, because if I don't, I'll be bashing the Maple Leafs again in the reaction video after the Ducks game, guys. But another embarrassing night for the Maple Leafs, guys. Once again, showing that they're just a lifeless bunch, a team that just is ready to call it a year, a team that's been ready to call it a year for quite some time, just a bad hockey team, an inconsistent hockey team, showing the flaws and the deficiencies that they have. Regardless if they go out there and do what they do, it's just so sickening to me, guys. Watching the way this hockey team plays night in and night out, and then seeing the St. Louis Blues who have a horrendous year, who have had a really bad year, have turned it around this month. They're not doing themselves any favor with their draft picks, guys, with their draft stock, of course, but did the Leafs a favor tonight. Let's hope to God the Leafs continue to lose. Only 8 games left. You're right there for the bottom 5 spot, guys. You got teams below you with a game in hand with San Jose, Winnipeg, Florida, these guys, and St. Louis as well. These teams all have a game in hand, guys. Hopefully those teams take advantage, win those games. Winnipeg beat Colorado tonight, a point behind the Leafs. Let's hope those teams continue to win and the Leafs continue to lose and find a way to get that top 5 pick and salvage something a little bit of this season after this torturous season that we've had as Maple Leafs fans, guys. But listen, another bad game by the Maple Leafs, guys. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this disastrous game today, guys. You had some okay performances. You had guys like Quinlan who were trying Cowan. Michelli was trying Joshua, but not too many guys were good tonight. A lot of guys were invisible tonight. It was just another one of those games, another pathetic performance tonight by the Maple Leafs, guys. We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinion on this one, guys. So like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Leafs, go as always, guys. See you guys on the next episode of Leafs Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.